It's my favorite racing weekend of the year. That's right. It's the TRAVERS Stakes up at Saratoga for the 3-year-olds, many of whom you've seen on the Kentucky Derby. This year, we get all three winners of the Triple Crown races: Mage, National Treasure, Archangelo, and Forte. Don't forget about Forte. What a race we have. This is Doubling Down. Let's go. Doubling Down with Colin Sheehan. Welcome back. And finally, as The Rock says, we finally have an episode where we allow Vinny a little time to gloat because, Vinny, you finally hit a double on
It's
Doubling Down.
I can't even remember the last one I hit, but yeah, it was paid what, like a little over $20 for.
Yeah.
I honestly, I'm blanking on the horse that won the first leg, but I know randomizing won, so that was randomized one, and that was good enough for me.
I always want to say Nagarok, but it wasn't Nagarok. It was a name like that.
Oh yeah, it was
Nostalgic.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. It
And,
was
and we
nostalgic.
both had nostalgic, and that you texted me after that first race and said that was probably a single, and that's where I made the mistake because Randomize was the horse that I left off in that next race, So if I just went single with that horse, I would have had the Randomize as well. But that's always easy on the Monday after to look back. But good call by you on a horse that was, coming into that race with some high figures, and Randomized made it look easy.
Yeah, I honestly I can't I was worried when she drifted up. When she was 9-2 on the morning line and she drifted up to 7-1. It was like, "Oh, that's not good." And then she got away early, and that was kind of it, and the track was kind of playing that way to speed. So that definitely helped that they left her alone, but I definitely was worried there when she was just ice cold on the board. I'm like, that was weird, but yeah, it all worked out there. The 7-1 was nice. The 20-1 double was better, so it made the
Well done.
weekend.
Well done. And that race was over pretty quickly with Rosario's move out of the gate, getting over and getting to the front, and there was no catch and Randomized. So good call by you. So I couldn't let you go I couldn't let you win a weekend and then not come back and have your little moment in the sunlight here. And then also, isn't this the best race of the year? In my opinion, it is. What about you?
Yeah. Oh yeah. It's like second Christmas. So
Yeah.
and this year we got first time in what year was it? It was like 2017, I think it was the last time
Yeah.
we had all three
Yep.
Triple Crown winners in it. And if I remember correctly, none of them won that year either. So
No, and actually, if you go back, as I was reading about this, I think it's been 5 times since I want to say 1978, and this is off my memory, that you've had the winners of all 3 races come in, and none of those times you've had the winner of the Triple Crown races win the actual
oh wow,
Travers.
that's
So
crazy.
a horse like American Pharaoh and Keen Ice, right?
Yep, that's
And
mine.
I think the year that it did happen was by disqualification, which was affirmed, if I'm not mistaken, or
Oh wow,
affirmed, I believe.
I
So,
did not know that. There's a Saratoga fact that you taught me.
yeah, well, hopefully it's a fact. I'm going off my memory of what I read like
Fact.
3 days ago.
Video's gonna get flagged now for false information.
That's okay. That's okay. We're gonna give them winners, so why can they complain? So anyways, this is Doubling Down. We usually come together and put together a daily double. So obviously the second leg of our double will be the Travers Stakes, a race that we are excited for. But prior to that, race 11 on Saturday, August 26th, is your Sword Dancer, grade 1, field of 7, going 1.5 miles on the turf. You have an interesting field here. I, at first, was going really kind of having a hard time going back and forth on what to do with some of these horses. And I read about Stone Age, who is your Morning's Line favorite of 6-5. A quote from Chad Brown saying, if the horse is only 80% and the goal is the John Hirsch and then the Breeders' Cup, well, to me, I'm all set with a horse like that when I read those comments from Chad Brown. So I am not going to use Stone Age. Let's start there. Any interest from you in using the runner-up to the Breeders' Cup turf last year?
I actually do like Stone Age, but at the price, I feel like especially for the double, if you're gonna use Stone Age, you just use
Single.
him in the double. Like,
Yeah.
and I personally don't think he lays over the field as much as the morning line is. I think it's Chat. You get the Chat. It's Pratt, Peter Brandt. Like, this horse was gonna take money. His last two races haven't been anything to write home about. I know he was facing much better horses. I mean, they're not even in the same league as these horses. And he just missed against Rebels Romance, who Rebels Romance probably would, like, if you just added him to this field, would be the favorite. So unfortunately, he's not here. Same with like Up to the Mark. So this is kind of like the B squad, honestly. So I'm gonna use Stone Age on my pick 5 ticket because I do have a couple other longer shots I like in the sequence. But for a double, I just don't see any value unless I single him.
Exactly. I felt the same way. So where did you go?
I went with the number 1 Soldiers Rising. I've been on this horse all year, and he's run good all year. You can kind of draw a line through that last race. He was in the Bowling Green, and he honestly, besides Rebels Romance, who threw the jockey, and that was it for him, he took the worst of that. He was sitting right next to Rebels Romance. He basically pulled up and shifted way outside afterwards. If you can find a replay of it, that's like his race was over. I'm hoping we get a price on him because both of them look. I mean, Rebels Romance looked like he was just going to blow by that field in the Bowling Green before that happened. I think Soldiers Rising was going to run second there at least. Like he looked just as good. I don't think he's as good as a horse like Rebels Romance, but I'm taking the couple horses that are coming out of that Bowling Green, and I'm not using them. So I landed on Soldiers Rising, and then Linda Rice is just doing Linda Rice things this meet. I don't. So I'm gonna use Pioneering Spirit as well because, like, why not? I would kick myself if Linda Rice beat me at a price and in a grade 1 with a horse that is that what I think it was in May ran in a maiden claimer.
Yep.
Yeah, this horse makes a ton of sense.
Well, I can give you more than that. I agree with you with Soldier Rising. So I have Soldier Rising on my ticket as well. That was actually, I'd say, like I said, I had a hard time with my ticket structure here. I use Pioneering Spirit because of what I've seen this horse do on the turf. So sure, you can point to a maiden claimer, but that was also the first time they moved this horse to the actually it wasn't the first time, but I'm sorry, the last 4 races have been on the turf and they've all been victories. And so that's what I saw. You have you have that maiden claimer in there for sure. Then they move him up to allowance 50,000, then allowance 95,000 level, optional claimer where he's not in for a claim, and favorite in the last 2 races and comes away with the victory. You're getting IRAD. When you take Jose, it's like, all right, I'll take IRAD as well if I have some interest there. So for sure. And then, in my head, I thought the same thing you did, which is Linda Rice and what's been happening up at the spot with her.
She's
This
just
horse is
on
also
fire.
sired by American Pharaoh, though, and American Pharaoh has done very, very well with horses on the turf. So I don't know that we've seen the best of Pioneering Spirit on the turf yet. They're obviously taking a big step up here, going up to a grade 1. So there's got to be the thought that the horse can at least be in the ballpark. So I will agree with you on an 8-1 shot in the double. I think there is some value there. You stopped at that point. I did include Channel Maker. Channel Maker's, I don't know. I have an affinity for Channel Maker.
Yeah.
Just as I said with Taxed last week, which cost me, but a horse that's got over 2.1 million winnings at the distance, right? So we're going a mile and a half here. And Channel Maker, although the mile and a half, maybe their early speed is not as big of a factor. This is the only lone speed, and they could get out in the front and maybe just set it down. And second off the layoff for Bill Mott with Manny Franco aboard. I always tend to take Channel Maker. Unfortunately, I didn't have Channel Maker on the Bowling Green. I think I had Rebels Romance that day, as you just mentioned. And of course, Channel Maker beats me at 15-1 and hasn't won many, many moons before that. So all those losses you see are where I put my money down on Channel Maker. 7-2 is a short price, but it's
that was
one of those horses that I just always tend to kind of put in the mix.
and he runs good. Like he's not a bad. Like he's not bad. He like my big issue was just that Bowling Green because like yeah he won, but the horses that actually competed after that after Rebels Romance fell, in my opinion, were not the best horses. And it's like he held on and he like I don't think he beat much there. And I think he was very fortunate that that happened because I think there very likely was a scenario there where he finishes fourth or fifth and the horses from the back actually move on him. Yeah, he might be like he should be lone speed here. We'll see. I mean, if it carries him, it carries him. I think 7-2 is awfully short for like you said his win really has an asterisk next to it, and his races before that have just not been good enough to beat this field. If he was like 10-1, I think I would have thrown him on too for the lone speed factor. But knowing he's gonna be,
Do you
you
think he's
know,
really going to be 7-2 though? Especially what we talked about with you think Stone Age is good,
it's
and
I think Stone Age is gonna take a lot of money. I don't as much. I think Linda's gonna take money with Pioneering Spirit. So yeah, he might drift up. Um, I I don't know really how the public's gonna play Bolshoi
I'm sorry,
Ballet.
Belay. Yeah.
He's a decent horse and he's run good here. My bigger issue is that O'Brien didn't send anybody with him. So he gets Johnny V, which Johnny V by no means is a bad jockey. But in my opinion, this means this horse is probably transferring to somebody here. It's probably going to Chad or it's probably going to like Clement or somebody like that after this race. The fact that he didn't send anybody over here with him, it's they usually send jockeys over here, especially for the grade ones. So very weird to see that Bolshoi Ballet does not like. I don't know what Ryan Moore is doing tomorrow or Saturday. I'm assuming there's big races over there, but they usually send somebody. And the fact that nobody's coming and he's just using Johnny V kind of singles to me that probably this horse is here to stay. But he could win. He could win too. If he drifts up, I think he's a good play because he's run at Saratoga before. What he ran fourth in the Saratoga Derby last year or 2 years ago.
Yeah, I just think this
Yeah,
horse is going to take more money than being 5-1, just because you see a horse coming over from Ascot and it's on the turf going long for Aidan O'Brien. I feel like that's enough for people that know a little bit about the sport to probably put some money in there. So that's where I thought the money might go to the 5-1 Bolshoi Ballet, and that's where Channel Maker might float up from the 7-2.
yeah. I hope like if you're playing Channel Maker, I think that's what you're kind of hoping that he's just the forgotten one on the board and drifts up to that like 5-6-1 range. Because I think 7-2 is awfully short to play on the 9-year-old. But I mean, he's the horse that nobody's gonna be mad if he wins. Like yeah, you're gonna lose like. I feel like there's some horses that like people just get mad when they win. When he wins, everybody seems to be happy. So
We shall see. But now it's on to the marquee event of the summer. And Vinny, what a field we have here. I mean, what more could you really ask for, getting the 3 Triple Crown winners? And then to me, and I heard someone say it this week, like this is Forte's and his connections Kentucky Derby. Obviously, they felt that race was kind of taken away from him, and they certainly obviously felt he was the best going into that race. Seeing Mage win only really made that even more interesting of a storyline. So you have that storyline leading up to this Travers Stakes, which just really makes it that in and of itself is interesting. And then you bring in Mage, National Treasure, Archangelo, even Disarm. I feel like he gets a little overlooked, being the 4th place finisher in the Derby. Tappet Trice, blinkers off is an interesting angle there for a horse that's always so far behind. If you're like El Hombre, who's a huge Tappet Trice fan, I feel like you almost have to give Tappet Trice that one more shot with the blinkers off if this horse is going to be more forwardly placed, maybe more focused. I'm sorry, blinkers on. And that's maybe an interesting angle of where don't jump off the Tappet Trice fan if that's a horse you've kind of been just dying by all these times. That would be my personal advice. I'm not a Tappet Trice fan, so I don't have to worry about it. And then you have Scotland coming in for Bill Mott, who won the Curlin. at Saratoga second weekend. I think July 21st would be second weekend.
Yeah.
So superb field, really interesting. Vinny, where's your interest going?
I landed on Forte.
That's okay. You don't have to
I
say it's
just
so
think
sad.
I know it's a tough field, and it's a short price is tough. I personally I wish Cox kept Saudi Crown here. I would have loved to see Saudi Crown take another crack at him. Forte just shows up every time.
Yeah.
And like he's got tactical speed. He can come from the back. He can run close to the pace. I think it's going to take a really bad start or a really bad trip to really have him not at least contend. Going to your Tappet Trice trade, I almost threw him in, and I might kick myself that he's not on my double, and I'm still up in the air if I'm going to throw him on my like pick 4 and pick 5 tickets. I said when they sent him to the Haskell that I thought it was the wrong decision. That track never plays the way he runs. You're going to give him, he's going to be the longest shot on the board. I don't think there's any way that Scotland is 12-1. I think you're going to get the longest price on the board and Tappet Trice. He's got that huge Saratoga stretch to get unwind. It could, like, if there was a day he was going to show up, it could be Saturday. And, you know, if you get 15-1 on him, it's probably worth it. I don't see why not.
Or at the very least, he'd be a great horse to put in that second spot for the exacta. If you like a horse like Forte or Arcangelo, you pick one of them and put Tappet Trice in the second spot and hammer that exacta, right?
Yeah, I think that's a good play with Tappet Trice. I don't like National Treasure at all.
So National Treasure is the one that I kind of thought the way you just did about Tappet Trice, because look, the added distance was my concern, right? And can he actually get the mile and the quarter? But if he runs the race like the Preakness and just gets out there and is able to just cruise, a lot of these, who's really going to be putting pressure on him early, that it could set up like the Preakness did. And that's kind of how I saw it a little bit.
I think a Mage is going to be more forwardly placed, and I think Scotland's going to press him. That Preakness was so bad. Like this year's Preakness was not good. And I kind of took that into account, that this year's Preakness was not strong. I thought the Belmont was definitely a stronger race. Like, Disarm's interesting. I think Disarm's kind of like Tappet Trice. I don't think he's as good as Tappet Trice, but he's more consistent. So like for your underneath play, like if you're playing an exacta or a try, I think Disarm is a great horse. A Mage, I think, will be more forwardly placed. I don't like that. I mean, it sucks that Saez got hurt, because I was honestly leaning towards Mage being my top pick in here. And then Saez got hurt, and I like Pratt, but Saez just like Saez being on the horse, knowing Saez is usually a little more aggressive, is kind of helps out, especially in a race like this that doesn't have a lot of pace. So I didn't end up using Mage. Arcangelo is interesting because I hate the layoff, but the horse has just been working. He's been working bullets, and it's like, well, he looks good. He looked really good in the Belmont. I would hate to get beat by a horse coming off of this giant layoff, especially knowing he won't be the favorite. I think that double will pay a little bit if I get through the first leg. So that's why I added Arcangelo in there. But really, my top two picks in here are Forte and Scotland. I think Mott's got a really good one with Scotland.
Yeah, so I made a little bit of a betting decision here. As you talked about in the first leg, I decided that when I'm putting together a ticket here, I just needed to single. So I obviously think Forte is extremely strong and going to be really tough to beat here. I love Mage, I think he's a great horse, and I love the story of the Kentucky Derby, getting Javier Castellano's first Derby win. I mentioned a little bit about what I thought about National Treasure, but I ultimately landed on a single here for my daily double, and that will be Arcangelo. I know there's the layoff there, but I looked a little bit into Castellano going with Arcangelo over Mage. I don't know if you took.
Yeah, that was. It really wasn't his choice, which is I think kind of why I didn't really take that into account.
Okay.
He was up in the air, and Mage's connections got impatient and basically wanted to know, like they wanted an answer from him, and he was like, no, like I don't know yet. I'm still weighing my options. And then they were like, fine, we're throwing Sayas on then. So like he didn't really like he kind of made the decision by not giving an answer, but he didn't really. It's not like he like flat out said like, no, I'm riding Arcangelo. I think there'd be a little bit of a difference there if he did that. He has been working Arcangelo though, so I mean, it's that I think that also played a factor into him going with Arcangelo over Mage. But yeah, I think that story was like he basically Delgado was like, "Hey, are you doing this?" And he was like, "I don't know." And they were like, "Well, we want to know sooner rather than later," so they just went with Saez.
Yeah, I mean, I'm obviously banking on that Belmont performance, right? We haven't seen as much from Arcangelo as you have from Forte. And the first thing you said was how consistent and great Forte's been. And that's your question mark about Arcangelo. But at least the distance isn't necessarily going to be a concern, right? I mean, you win the Belmont, you kind of cross
Oh
that.
yeah,
You
no,
cross
I
that
think.
line off pretty easily.
Oh, I think Arcangelo is good. The
And
layoff just
sired by
worries.
Arrogate, right?
Yeah,
So
the
you're good.
layoff just really worries me there. Like that, a couple horses in the last like 10 years have tried this Belmont to Travers double, and it hasn't worked. I think the last year, I think what was it 27? Was it 2017? I think Taprit also attempted this. Like he didn't run until he went from the Belmont, then his first race back was the Travers, and I think he ran like fourth or something. Like he didn't run bad, but he didn't run great. So that kind of is worry. It kind of worries me. I really wish he ran in like the Jim Dandy or something like that, um, just to get a race in. But I'm very like I put Forte on top. I really like Scotland though. I know you like National Treasure on paper should be going to the early lead. He should be sitting right off of him. And if he sits right off of National Treasure and National Treasure just can't get the distance, which I don't think he can, I think he's gonna. I think there's a chance that like right after like the mile mark, Scotland has the lead, ends up just taking the lead from him. And if he has the lead turning for home, I think he's going to be awfully tough to run down. I know it's the Curlin, and I know he wasn't facing fantastic horses, but the horses that he's beaten have all come back to run pretty well. Two races back, I think it was 2 or 3 races back, he beat Cagliostro, who
Yep.
has now ran third in the Indiana Derby and arguably should have won with a better trip. And then said like just same thing with the in the last race there in the Smarty Jones. Um, the horse that Scotland beat in the Curlin just won the Smarty Jones and got a 98 buyer.
Mhm.
Cagliostro ran second there. Um, so really like that's how I actually played that race and just played the two. I liked Cagliostro more, but I played that exact of the two horses that Scotland beat. So I don't think he's beaten terrible horses, as we've seen some of the Curlin winners in the past do. So I think there's a shot that Mott really does have something here, and I don't think there's any way this horse is double digit odds. I think he is going to get. I think we're probably looking at like 6 to 1, maybe less.
Love it. And maybe that sets you up for a really nice, good magic exacta. If you go Mage Scotland, I think you've put that in my head as we've talked here for a couple minutes.
Yeah,
So
the my pick five. I'm very short in some of the other legs of this late pick five, and I might play a one of my tickets might just be pretty deep here in the Travers because it is a really good. It's a really balanced field, and like I feel like the way you look at it is like, well, if you think Forte lays over this field, like you single Forte. If you
yep,
think Forte is beatable,
you
like
got a lot of
you can make
options.
a right. You can make a case. You can make a case for most of the field, in my opinion. I really the two that I'm really not sold on are Disarm and National Treasure, but on a deep pick five ticket, I'd be an idiot to leave Baffert out at a price. And I have a few buddies that absolutely love Disarm. So even though I don't see it, I feel like I would never hear the end of it if that's why I lost my ticket.
Yeah.
So it's but Scotland and Forte I feel really good about, and I added because I didn't use Stone Age in the first leg, I added Archangelo, who's a horse that he's either going to run huge or I don't think he shows up. So that was.
And I'd agree, and I'll take a shot that he shows up, and he will be my single in here. So my ticket is 156 with Archangelo for $3. That's certainly not a slight against Forte or Mage or Scotland. I just think from a ticket structure standpoint, the way I look at it, you got to pick one of those lower priced ones, and that's what I'm going to do. Vinny's going to go 1-5 with the 1-2-7, but listen to Vinny on Scotland. He gives you some good tips there on a 12-1 morning line horse who could be a big runner. So outside of the daily double, maybe you want to include Scotland on some of your win bets or exactas for sure. Vinny, I hope you hit 2 weeks in a row, because that will definitely be a first.
Yeah, if I hit 2 weeks, if I hit 2 weeks in a row, I might have to call Brian and see if I can.
You're welcome back, baby.
Yeah,
we'll
get a spot back.
We'll put your head back on the intro.
Yeah, right. No, that would be. I hope I hit 2 weeks in a row. I always like being on here. So yeah, like I hope we both can hit.
I love
Soldiers
that.
Rising, Archangelo.
There we go.
1-2 double. I'd be more than happy with that.
People should double their bets on that particular one. Vinny, will talk, I'm sure, Saturday through text. As I'm at the wedding, you're going to have to give me the updates. For everyone else, please like and subscribe. I'm Colin. He's Vinny. This is Doubling Down, and good luck to everyone on this